Tonight, the back and forth.
They don't make these decisions or recommendations based on politics.
To wear a mask or not, amid a rise in cases of COVID-19 more than a year now since the start of the pandemic. And
a major military drawdown in Iraq.
President Biden meets with the Iraqi Prime Minister. Plus,
it's the right thing to do for the country.
The latest on that bipartisan infrastructure deal. And
we will find the truth.
A preview of the Select Committee on Capitol Hill investigating the January 6 riots breaching the Capitol.
All this and more tonight on Faith Nation.
To mask or not to mask? Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm John Jessup.
And I'm Jenna Browder. That is one of many questions tonight, as vaccines are now mandatory for healthcare workers at the Department of Veterans Affairs. This is the first federal agency to mandate vaccinations and comes as the Delta variant continues to surge.
That's right, Jenna. And even as the number of Americans getting shots in their arms goes up, the White House confirms there is active discussion taking place about requiring masks even for those who are fully vaccinated. CBN News White House correspondent Eric Phillips has tonight's top story. Eric.
John, Jenna, about 700,000 vaccine doses were handed out in a 24-hour period over the weekend. That is the most in 3 weeks, and new vaccine doses are up 28%. This as both Pfizer and Moderna are beginning to expand their studies to include those 5 to 11 years old. Officials say there's evidence antibody levels are dropping among those who've been vaccinated as soon as 7 months after vaccination, fueling the debate over whether booster shots will be necessary. Dr. Fauci saying especially those with weaker immune systems could benefit.
Those are the kind of individuals that if there's going to be a third boost, which might likely happen, will be among first the vulnerable.
It goes hand in hand with debates over requiring vaccinated people to wear masks. Nothing conclusive there yet.
I definitely think that we should wear masks again until it does get under control. And I will wear a mask until it does, even if I am vaccinated, which I am.
The pro-vaccination push from medical experts seems to be getting through.
In the reporting period from yesterday, nearly 500,000 Americans made the decision to get their first shot. Numbers like this signal to us people are understanding the urgency and importance of getting vaccinated, and rightfully so.
Even as breakthrough cases are emerging, doctors say those who are being hospitalized for COVID are largely unvaccinated. But in Florida, the state with the highest number of new cases, the governor says people should be allowed to make up their own minds.
They have different reasons for why they don't take it, and I think that the more they're hectored by government officials or some of these folks, that is not gonna get them to yes. I can tell you that right now.
One Missouri hospital is offering a private setting for people who are afraid to be seen getting the vaccine.
They've had several people come in to get vaccinated who have tried to sort of disguise their appearance and even went so far as to say, please, please, please don't let anybody know that I got this vaccine. I don't want my friends to know.
And leading medical groups are urging all healthcare workers to receive the vaccination. This coalition, including the American Medical Association, calls it, quote, a logical fulfillment of the ethical commitment. This, as Veteran Affairs, as we reported at the top of this program, is requiring that most healthcare workers receive the vaccine. It's a controversial move, and we will see if the private sector follows suit. The latest from the White House. I'm Eric Phillips. John and Jenna, back to you.
All right, thank you, Eric. Joining us now is John Quelch, Dean of the University of Miami Business School and former professor of health and policy and management at Harvard School of Public Health. John, welcome back. More and more local officials and state officials are opting to make their own decisions about mask mandates. Of course, Los Angeles and now St. Louis. Is what we're seeing, John, an attempt to get out ahead, or does this contradict CDC guidance?
I don't think it contradicts the CDC guidance. Certainly, there's a variation in the level to which the Delta variant is prevalent in one jurisdiction versus another. And there's also high variance in terms of the political appetite in one jurisdiction versus another for mandating vaccine, mask, whatever it may be. So certainly Los Angeles, certainly Chicago, other jurisdictions are sure to follow, given the severity of the Delta variant and the virulence of it, the speed with which it can spread.
Many conservatives are hesitant to get the vaccine. Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie said on Sunday that people are, and this is a quote, willing to be vaccinated, but that they don't want to be indoctrinated. Does he have a point?
Well, there's a lot of misinformation associated with being vaccinated. In full disclosure, I've been fully vaccinated for several months and very grateful to the scientific prowess of the United States that brought us the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, followed by J&J as quickly as they did. I don't think that there's indoctrination going on here. I think there's just a minority of folks who, for whatever reason, are challenging the expertise of scientists. And it's unfortunate that they've been able through social media to gain as much traction.
John, as we just saw in Eric's report, he mentioned that people were requesting discrete locations to receive the shot, even disguising themselves. What does that suggest to you about the divisiveness of this issue in America today?
Well, I think it suggests that in some pockets of the country, there is substantial peer pressure against being vaccinated. And I think it's very unfortunate that this kind of pressure would limit someone's ability to feel comfortable going to a health facility and taking advantage of what this great nation has to offer.
The U.S. Census Bureau is reporting a huge surge in homeschooling. The rate of households homeschooling their kids rose 11% by September of 2020, more than doubling in a 6-month period. And now many families, they're saying, hey, we'll continue to do homeschool. What does this shift say to you?
It does suggest that the level of uncertainty in terms of public school safety and public school mask and vaccine policy has resulted in shifting folks towards more homeschooling. And definitely, I think it's fair to say COVID has been a little bit of a boost to homeschooling. There is concern always when it comes to homeschooling that the curriculum that is being taught is sufficient to give the children involved the relevant and necessary opportunities they have to advance in the economy.
John, well, we have to leave it there. But John Quelch, the University of Miami, we appreciate you coming on this evening. Thank you so much.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Well, the U.S. will be winding down another military mission in the Middle East by year's end. President Biden's decision to end the combat mission in Iraq comes at the urging of that country's prime minister. Meeting at the White House today, President Biden said the transition will only strengthen those relations.
We support strengthening Iraq's democracy, and we're anxious to make sure the election goes forward in October. And we're also committed to our security cooperation. Our shared fight against ISIS is critical for the stability of the region, and our counterterrorism cooperation will continue even as we shift to this new phase we're going to be talking about.
The president explained instead of pulling out altogether, they plan to meet those terms by redefining the role of soldiers, calling it a natural next step for continued support against Islamic terrorists. The military drawdown comes with mounting pressure from pro-Iranian factions demanding a U.S. departure. Today's announcement comes on the heels of the withdrawal of all U.S. troops from Afghanistan. The United Nations reporting more women and children have been killed and wounded in Afghanistan in the first half of 2021 than any year on record.
Here with us now, Michael O'Hanlon, Senior Fellow and Director of Research at the Brookings Institution. Michael, welcome. Great to see you this evening. This announcement of U.S. troop withdrawal in Iraq, what do you make of it? And is it less of a full withdrawal and more of a reconstituting of U.S. forces?
Hi, Jenna. Well, you're right. It is more of a reconstituting. I don't think we really had much choice here. I've been critical of President Biden's decision to pull U.S. combat forces out of Afghanistan, where I think they still had an important mission and where we're already seeing the consequences of our departure. But by contrast, in Iraq, the Iraqi military is better than Afghanistan's. And also, Iraqi political support for our presence is less than in Afghanistan, which means President Biden didn't really have a choice. He was not going to be allowed by the Iraqi parliament to keep U.S. forces in a combat role in Iraq. And by the way, it's a combat role that's not really crucial anymore anyhow. Now, 10 years ago, as you know, we left completely, and I think that was a mistake. This time, what Biden's trying to do is keep a small U.S. presence that can still provide advice, that can help Sunni and Shia and Kurds in Iraq work with each other. We're sort of a neutral or, honest broker in between them. We're a friend that counters Iran's influence. And I think we can do a lot of that with a couple thousand troops. One last key point, we do have air power in neighboring countries, in Kuwait, in Qatar, in Bahrain, which means that if our presence or our people inside of Iraq come under attack, we do have ways of quickly coming to their aid. Again, much more so than in Afghanistan, which is a landlocked country a long ways away from almost anything else. So for all these reasons, I think President Biden made the inevitable and necessary and correct decision. And we are going to be able to keep a couple thousand U.S. troops in Iraq if we so choose, as I understand the arrangement.
Michael, in your response, you just mentioned Iraq's neighbor. Could this announcement at all be linked to the renewed U.S.-Iran nuclear negotiations?
Yes, in a sense, because everything is interconnected. But I don't think we did this as a favor to Iran, and I don't think we did it because we trust Iran. Of course, we should not trust Iran, and we should not be doing any favors for Iran, even if we're starting to talk to them again at some limited level. The real issue here is the Iraqis themselves, many of whom are funded by Iran or close to Iran. Some of the factions just don't want us to stay. And the fact that we killed Qasem Soleimani in early 2020 with that drone strike when he was on Iraqi territory makes the Iraqis especially sensitive. So they're very nationalistic, very proud, and they don't really want American combat forces doing things unilaterally on their own soil. So I think that's the connection here to the Iran issue, not that we were somehow presupposing that U.S.-Iran relations are headed in a better direction, which I doubt they are.
Michael, just a few seconds left here, but wanted to ask you about Afghanistan and this new report showing casualties of women and children spiking there. Is this just the beginning of more strife?
Yeah, Jenna, those numbers are tragic, but they're not that different from previous numbers. So in and of itself, this report doesn't worry me that much, but it's what you said at the end. It's what's coming next, I fear. And I think you're going to see a worsening civil war. The Taliban is probably not going to win quickly. They might, but they probably won't. But in the absence of a NATO presence, of a U.S. presence, the Afghan government's not going to be able to hold on to as many towns. There's going to be much more back and forth, and it's going to be, I'm afraid, even uglier.
Michael, we are unfortunately out of time. Michael O'Hanlon with the Brookings Institution, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Coming up, so close yet so far. The latest roadblock in the way of a bipartisan infrastructure deal.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep as the world watches from the outside.
It's a big diplomatic tug-of-war here in the Middle East.
Go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline Friday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Welcome back. Well, Republicans and Democrats on the Hill are beginning to play the blame game as a bipartisan infrastructure deal begins to stall. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi now refusing to take the smaller traditional infrastructure bill up in the House unless the Senate also passes a separate $3.5 trillion package aimed at human infrastructure.
The bill is not as green as I would like it to be, the infrastructure bill. And I think that it's something we could have passed a long time ago, even before the climate crisis was readily known to everyone. But nonetheless, I hope that it will pass. I won't put it on the floor until we have the rest of the initiative.
The lead Republican negotiator in the Senate shot back a warning Sunday that if the Speaker gets her way, the deal could fall apart.
And joining us now is Nathan Gonzalez, editor and publisher of Inside Elections. David, as Jenna just mentioned, the deal is stalling. So does missing a deadline mean a deal is dead?
I guess it's not dead until it's finally over. I'll take that the deal is on life support right now, which is sadly the optimistic view. I think ultimately that there is enough in these negotiations or enough in these bill with regard to jobs for Americans that will still be attractive enough to enough members and senators to get this thing done. But it probably comes down to whether Democrats are willing to accept anything like that, even if it's boiled down from what they originally wanted, and what Republicans want to do. Former President Trump, in a release today, encouraged Republicans not to negotiate at all and to wait until after the 2022 elections. So we still have, it's a long road ahead.
Well, to your point, a former editor of the American Conservative today wrote, infrastructure was an opportunity Donald Trump and Republicans let slip away. Nathan, is it fair to say that President Trump and Republicans gave Democrats this opening?
Well, I think, they didn't pass anything when Republicans didn't pass anything when they were in charge. So this remains an opportunity. And I think missed opportunities could maybe be a blanket statement over the entire Trump presidency. He came in 2016 as this transformational figure who wasn't beholden to either of the parties. And he had an opportunity, but he either generally chose to govern as a conservative, or there was always so much personal angst or personal things going on that it made him radioactive to Democrats, meaning there were some Democrats who probably would have agreed with President Trump on some policies such as infrastructure, but he became so radioactive that no Democrats could end up supporting him when he was in office.
Nathan, at a stop in Arizona over the weekend, Donald Trump blasted Republican Governor Doug Ducey. This is the same governor Republicans are lobbying to run against Democratic Senator Mark Kelly. In Arkansas, Trump endorsed Senator John Boozman in his reelection bid, but Boozman is being challenged by Republican challengers on the right. Nathan, you wrote that Boozman's greatest sin is that he's too nice. How much does this style over substance fight potentially jeopardize Republicans' chances of winning back the Senate?
I think right now it is less about policy in the Republican Party, and it's more about style. Right now, Republican primary voters tend to reward those who are more provocative in their style, that get on TV more, rather than senators or members who are just conservative votes. And I think that's why you're seeing challengers to a Senator Bozeman, who I think most people who cover the Hill or cover Arkansas politics would regard as one of the most affable politicians that you'll ever meet. But yet he has 3 primary challengers. And in Arizona, some Republicans do want Governor Ducey, but it's clear that President Trump does not, because he doesn't believe the governor did enough to deliver the state's electoral votes in 2020. And so that's a case where what President Trump wants, I think, is hurting Republican chances of winning back the Senate.
Wow. All right, Nathan Gonzalez, editor and publisher of Inside Elections. It's always great to have you on these Mondays. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Nathan.
Good to see you.
When we come back, another GOP is seated on the January 6th Select Congressional Committee. So why are Republicans crying foul over the appointment?
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
Administering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to cbnnewschannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News. Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
A House committee looking into the origins of the January 6th Capitol assault gets underway tomorrow.
But as senior Washington correspondent Jennifer Wishon explains, their work begins under a cloud.
The goal of the House Select Committee is to get to the bottom of what happened on January 6th and ensure it never happens again. But before committee members ask any questions, their results are mired in controversy.
Speaker Nancy Pelosi has appointed 2 Republicans to the 13-member panel. Liz Cheney, once the number 3 Republican, stripped of her leadership role, and Adam Kinzinger, a vocal critic of President Trump. In a statement, he writes, "I'm a Republican dedicated to conservative values, but I swore an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution. When duty calls, I will always answer."
Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney would lose a Republican primary anywhere in America that you would throw a dart and it would hit the map. And so it seems bizarre that they are representing Republicans in this highly significant venture.
Pelosi's appointments come after she refused to seat 2 of the 5 members nominated by House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy, Jim Jordan and Jim Banks, 2 staunch supporters of President Trump. So McCarthy withdrew all his picks.
People said to me, put them on, and then when they act up, you can take them off. I said, why should we waste time on something as predictable?
A move McCarthy says taints the committee.
It shows exactly what I warned back at the beginning of January, that Pelosi would play politics with this.
The panel is chaired by Democrat Congressman Benny Thompson, who, like all members, has horrific memories from that day inside America's hallowed halls.
And then we get to the western side, and somebody said, get on the floor. And they said, take your pen off. Because if they break in, they trying to kill members of Congress.
Authorities say about 800 people broke through security barriers to enter the Capitol. Some 550 have been charged with crimes. 4 police officers there that day will be the first to testify.
I'm a big believer in sharing with the public what we're doing, how we're doing it. When something bad happens, good news or bad news doesn't get any better by just, sitting on it.
It's unclear whether the committee will uncover anything new about January 6th, but it could reveal unexpected information. Remember, Hillary Clinton's private email server was uncovered during a hearing looking at the attack against the U.S. Embassy in Benghazi. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News.
An accessible America is a better America. Still ahead, celebrating the 31st anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Wednesday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
Finally tonight, marking 31 years of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Today's anniversary dates back to the presidency of George H.W. Bush when he signed the law prohibiting discrimination against anyone with a disability.
Quadriplegic artist Tyree Brown, joined the president and vice president in the Rose Garden to share about how her faith and the ADA have changed her life.
I was worried I would not be able to live independently and pursue my dreams of being an artist, but now there are programs that are helping me achieve my goals.
Brown's goals include living on her own and pursuing a career in art while volunteering at her church, and I think that she will well achieve that.
Yeah, it looks like a beautiful day in the Rose Garden. All right, well, that does it for Faith Nation.